Now let's talk again about how intermarriages with Indians and white tea people, this is in 1900, has not only been encouraged for over hundreds of years, but it has played a major part in the land grab and the extortion of the funds of Indian people. I'm also going to show you how on my own tree, how the intermarriage actually played a part in the splitting up and being labeled freemen of some people, while other people on other people's trees with the same parents and one of his sisters get labeled as a normal Indian. Now that I got your attention, notice this: 1792 in the National Gazette. It has been suggested that the best method to facilitate the civilization of the Indians and attach them to the United States would be to encourage the intermarriage of YTs with them. That's in 1792. So far, one of the earliest that I've found in the newspaper, and I might be able to find some earlier. 1816, just to show you another one right here. This is William H. Crawford, Secretary at War, sending us to the president, talking about how to improve the condition of the red brethren. And it says, if the system already devised has not produced all of the effects which are expected from it, new experiments ought to be made, when every effort to introduce to them, the Indian savages, ideas of exclusive properties and things real and personal shall fail, let intermarriages between them, the Indians, and the YTs be encouraged by the government. This cannot fail to preserve the race with the modifications necessary to enjoy blah, blah, blah. Okay? 20, 30 years later almost, so they still talking about it. And I can keep going on and on, but this is 1825. Another marriage with an Indian white tea girl contemplated. But if you come down here, it says the shore is from the above is from the Middletown Sentinel, and marriage passing notice when Mr. Crawford, the same Mr. Crawford from the last one, was Secretary of War, was called upon to declare what was the best mode of civilizing the Indians. He himself said that intermarriages with the YTs was the only sure remedy, okay? And we can keep going. Even in 1888, intermarriages with Indians, and it talks about Indian marriages and YTs. I'm not trying to get into it. This one right here explains that the jurisdiction of the civil laws of the United States does not extend over the Indian territory. Defaulting debtors from surrounding states may acquire a residence in said Indian territories by intermarriage with the Indians or by accepting employment of them, and thus place themselves beyond the reach of their creditors. What does that mean? It means that if these people were to if YT people was to marry an Indian and move to Indian territory, they can have all of their debts cleared because there is no jurisdiction in order to take them. That just means, hey, if I marry a person, I'll get my debt cleared. And the last one before I get back to the original, 1883, mixed races, intermarriage of Indians, Negroes, and YTs. How many white tea men get a wife and a farm too? And it goes in talking about how when you get an Indian woman, you get land, you get money, you get this and that. Okay, now this was one of my ancestors that ended up in one of these so-called interracial marriages. Her last name was Love. Now let's get to 1900, where all of this 100 years has taken effect of them encouraging with the government and newspapers and everything else to do the intermarriage. That the Indian race is about done for, there is no doubt. It all came about by intermarriage with the YTs. For the most part, YT men are responsible for it because they have married Indian women more than Indian men have wedded the YT women. In the first place, the Indian women have quite a fortune. And that has attracted some YT men to them. Okay, while the Indian men are notoriously unkind to their wives and can seldom get an Indian woman to marry them willingly. In accordance with the general rule of the Indian Department, any YT man who marries an Indian woman entitled to share in the funds of the tribe just the same as the woman herself. Their children are also allowed their equal share with another. Nearly every woman, let me say this again, nearly every woman has money deposited with the United States for land sold many years ago, which brings in a certain income. Some of the richest men in the West are those who have married Indian wives and have a large family of children. Very much so like my family. This guy came in, he had this Indian wife and this Indian wife. He got him two with his greedy ass. And this is the one connected to me, had that many children with them. Samuel Love's on my tree. And he had that many children with them, all under his love name. Some of the richest men in the West are those who have married Indian wives and have a large family of children. The Indian chiefs all try to win a YT bride as it is considered a mark of distinction. That means they're not trying to do it to get your money. They're just trying to get a YT woman just to get a YT woman. The government encourages the marriage of YT men, as we've seen. Encourage white men to Indian women as the true way to civilize the Redskins, as we have seen. Some of those who have married Indian women, the Chickasaws, are very much opposed to YT men marrying into the tribe, but others tribes are not. So, even though they said that, unfortunately, mine fell for it. He came over from Ireland. His dad was unalived in the war. He came over from Ireland, chased off to the Chickasaw tribe. We took him in, and he ended up getting married to Homahota. And that story is already told on my line. But then he had offspring, Samuel William Love. Samuel William Love is listed under here under Imahota Love. Lucinda Love is somebody else, but that's his sister. Now, Mr. William Bill Love is listed as a Choctaw freedman, which means he was black. Makes sense because Homahota is this person, which is definitely black. Technically, she's a mixed blood because her mom was a French person, but that's another story. So they made Samuel William Love a freedman. Imahota is not listed as a freedman. That was before they was doing the freedman roles. But Lucinda is not listed as a freedman either, but she's his brother. That's her brother. But let me show you. This is Mrs. Olivares' tree. And on Mrs. Olivares' tree, you got the same people: Thomas, Stephen, Christian Love, Imahota, Ikotaba, Lucinda Love. When I click on it to say Lucinda, she married a Samuel Colbert. But what you notice here is the seal of the Chickasaws, the real seal of the Chickasaws, not freedman paperwork. So how does one person who comes from the same mom and dad, which is a mulatto family, black, Indian, YT, Irish, and all of a sudden, not Irish, Ireland, Irish, and all of a sudden, one gets to be that and the other one gets to be that because the Colberts had a YT passing person, and you went towards that. They went towards that. Whereas Mr. Samuel Love married another Chickasaw who was from a different family line and had nothing to do with those families, and she was also black, and they put them on the rolls as a freedman. But they come from Imahota and Stephen Thomas Christian Love. Okay? It's the same people. Now, Love County, Oklahoma, is named after the Loves. These Loves, Imahota, they could be there too. I haven't looked them up, but the Imahota, she's buried there. Okay, as well as there's other information. There's a store there called Mahota Textiles and all this other stuff. So I don't have much time left anyways, but just to go ahead and put the nail in the coffin on the point, they've been encouraging this for over 100 years. The takeover of land and resources from the Indians was mostly done, as this says and as the others show, through intermarriage and deceit. Not all through just wars and slavery and things of that nature. They have been cunning, and they have been public about it, and they have been in the newspapers about it many times. They've been playing with us, and we're gonna make sure they quit playing with us.